Alright, bada bing, bada boom. This works. Pretty sure we're going. On this portion of, on this secondary portion of Deconstructing MAGA history, we're going to go through the process
Condemn us for doing it.
We're going to go through the process of how the KKK had to sanitize and readapt their platform during the 60s and 80s.
You didn't deny the racist thing.
Well, it depends on your definition of racist. I'm a segregationist, okay? I believe that God has commanded me not to mix with other races. For that reason, I want to have schools where I can send my children to a white school. I want to be able to go to my white neighborhoods, to white businesses, those things. So if that terms me as a racist, then I'm a racist.
Damn. That's a hard-ass intro, not gonna lie. That's a hard-ass intro. I kind of...
What you've just seen is a grand wizard of the KKK make a huge strategic mistake. You see, Bill Wilkinson didn't come on television to admit who he was. He came to pretend that the Klan was simply a civil rights organization for white Americans.
White Americans are being treated as second-class citizens.
He was attempting to sanitize his position to make it palatable. This is what extremists do when they know that their real views are indefensible. They scrub their language of violence and hate.
Jews are running society, women need to shut the up, blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part, and we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Replacing it with the polite vocabulary of policy, law, and fairness.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers.
They use euphemism, loaded language, they lean on dog whistles, and they reframe their ideology as reasonable concern.
Anyone that has had a friend who was making edgy jokes, and the second you ask them about it, they don't see anything wrong with why they said what they said. It's because they felt that way.
The mechanism is simple. Ignore the bloody history, obscure what they actually want to achieve, and focus entirely on present-day grievances. If they succeed, they trick the audience into treating them as legitimate political actors. If they fail, the gap between their polite words and their hateful reality is exposed for everyone to see.
When did you take in the Pat Buchanans? When I was a kid in Dubuque, Iowa, the Ku Klux Klan, which was then fairly powerful in Indiana, about 1922 or 3, somewhere in there, you were anti-Catholic.
The Klan has had different views from time to time on lesser issues.
Why hello, my fellow apes, I hope you are well. We're watching a forgotten interview from 1982, an episode of Crossfire featuring hosts Tom Braden and Pat Buchanan. And it's a quintessential lesson in how to platform a racist. Yes, it can be done responsibly. On one side, we have the imperial wizard Bill Wilkinson, trying to rebrand the Invisible Empire as a victim advocacy group. On the other, we have Tom Braden and Pat Buchanan, armed with the one thing that Wilkinson couldn't spin: his own documents.
Well, what are you saying it for then?
I'm not saying it.
Well, it says right here.
And for those of you thinking that this is just dusty history, stick around. The moves you're about to see, claiming reverse racism.
The Civil Rights Act, though, let's be clear, created a beast, and that beast has now turned into an anti-white weapon.
It's almost like everybody that was telling you to think like that and telling you that that was normal were influenced by the same motherfuckers.
Obsessing over definitions.
So then what is racism? Am I racist?
And appealing to heritage are the exact same tactics used by white nationalists today. The costumes have changed, but the playbook hasn't.
When I say we and like our kind of people, and they, the people that are against us, it's those that that have a sense of American identity, that it's about the American people and their history, their heritage, going all the way back even before the founding, before the settlement of the North American continent, where we come from, who we really are, and putting that first.
I get it now.
We're going to watch that playbook get deployed, and then we're going to watch it get...
What's up?
What'd you say? What's going on?
I was saying that's the very fancy way of saying that's the quiet... That's a very fancy way of saying the quiet part out loud. Just being like, no, actually, I really want to stay I really want to stay just us whiteys.
Get dismantled, step by step.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my humble duty tonight to introduce you to the Grand and Imperial Wizard of the Invisible Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Mr. Bill Wilkinson. Oh, Imperial Wizard, can you tell me, and us, 100 years after you your predecessors set the South aflame with the cross burnings, lynchings, and other events, you should be bothering this country still.
Braden's tone is deliberately mocking. By using the full title Grand and Imperial Wizard while listing cross burnings and lynchings, he highlights the absurdity of the costume against the horror of history and forces those facts into the audience's awareness before questions can even begin.
The Grand and Imperial Wizard of the Invisible Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Mr. Bill Wilkinson.
Wilkinson is already in a lose-lose position. He either stays silent and lets the audience sit with the visions of lynchings and cross-burnings, or he pushes back and immediately finds himself on controversial ground, which is exactly where he doesn't want to be, because he's here to sanitize.
You should be bothering this country still.
To begin with, I believe a slight rebuttal is in order.
I believe a slight rebuttal in order here.
For your opening statements, or the opening statements that was made about the Klan. We are not anti-Catholic. We are not anti-Semitic. We believe in the white race. We believe that at this point in time that white Americans are being treated as second-class citizens, that the federal laws, the civil rights laws, have created a dual system of justice in this country. A set of federal laws that protects the interest of minorities.
And this is what sanitization looks like. Wilkinson ignores the lynching charge completely. He doesn't even acknowledge it happened. Instead, he attempts to reframe the Ku Klux Klan as a victim advocacy group.
White Americans are being treated as second-class citizens.
Notice the specific denials. Not anti-Catholic, not anti-Semitic.
We are not anti-Catholic. We are not anti-Semitic.
He's trying to shed the baggage of the 1920s Klan to appeal to a 1980s conservative audience. Not because the views have changed, but because the optics have to. He wants to debate policy, not terrorism. He wants to talk about affirmative action, not arson. He wants to rage against what we would now call wokeness. He's hoping that if he sounds reasonable enough, the audience will forget the hoods and the burning crosses altogether.
I can't see f***ing shit out of this thing. We ready or what? Hold on, I'm f***ing with my whole...
Here's a story where you would expect the facts to just speak for themselves. Trump threatens to cut off all US trade with
laws that protects
this channel at the same time. Thanks.
A set of federal laws that protects the interest of minorities and local and state laws.
But Grand and Imperial Wizard,
the interest of white people.
If I may interrupt, if I might be so bold as to interrupt the Imperial Wizard, it says on a sheet that you people hand out to the young and the youths of our high schools, it says, if you want to join the Klan, quote, I swear that I am of white, non-Jewish heritage. Are you fed up with special privileges given to blacks? That's a quotation from your own literature.
You see,
I just wonder who, where did that whole thing come from? You know, where did all that, you know?
Braden wasn't just listening, he was waiting, and Wilkinson walked right into it by claiming we are not anti-Semitic.
We're not anti-Semitic.
Braden immediately produces a physical document, a recruitment flyer, one that requires members to swear that they have non-Jewish heritage, an act that destroys Wilkinson's credibility from the very first exchange. It's not Braden's opinion versus Wilkinson's, it's Wilkinson's word versus Wilkinson's ink. The paper doesn't lie, the paper says exactly what the Klan requires of its members. And now Wilkinson has to untangle that.
It says, if you want to join the Klan, quote, I swear that I am of white, non-Jewish heritage. Are you fed up with special privileges given to black?
Now, this is the first thing you must do if you're going to platform a racist. You must be prepared. Braden knew exactly what Wilkinson would claim, exactly what he would deny, and he had the receipts ready. Because once you understand how sanitization works, it is very, very predictable.
Are you fed up with special privileges given to blacks? That's a quotation from your own literature.
Absolutely. We are a
Well,
Christian.
what do you mean you're not anti-Semitic?
We are a Christian organization. We also
Bro goes, absolutely.
don't allow Buddhists or Muslims or atheists.
Notice the pivot. Wilkinson tries to make the exclusion of Jews sound like a matter of religion. We are a Christian organization, don't you know, rather than what it actually is. Bigotry. He then lists other groups, Buddhists, Muslims, atheists, to dilute the specific focus on Jews, trying to hide hate behind religious freedom.
We also don't allow Buddhists or Muslims or atheists.
The logic is, don't call us anti-Semitic, we hate everybody.
I hate everyone just the same.
But nobody's fooled. Nobody's walking into a Klan rally worried about Buddhist infiltration. Yet underneath the absurdity, this is a tactic worth recognizing. When you catch an extremist in a specific lie, they try to bury it in a list. They widen the frame so that the one thing you caught them on looks like it's just one of many. Don't let them. Keep the focus narrow. Braden caught him on anti-Semitism, and that is the thread to pull.
We also don't allow Buddhists or Muslims or atheists in the organization.
When did you take in the Pat Buchanans? When I was a kid in Dubuque, Iowa, the Ku Klux Klan, which was then fairly powerful in Indiana, about 1922 or 3, somewhere in there, you were anti-Catholic.
The Klan has had different views from time to time on lesser issues.
Lesser issues. Let that land for a moment. He just categorized the terrorizing of millions of Catholics as a minor administrative detail.
On
lesser issues.
This is sanitization at work. History isn't something to apologize for, it's just policy that evolves. He's shrugging off a century of violence as a platform update. And the uncomfortable truth is, that's not far from what actually happened. When the Klan was stronger, it could afford to target Catholics openly, and that's what it did. But by the 1980s, that strength had waned, and gaining political influence required a broader tent. The hatred, then, didn't disappear, it just got strategic about who to include.
The Klan has had different views from time to time on lesser issues. The one issue we've never changed on is that of segregation. We believe that God has commanded us to separate ourselves from other races. In fact, that's not a unique stand. Billy Graham, just a few years ago, himself segregated his crusade audiences. He preached segregation. The Southern Baptist and the National Baptist, one was black, one was white. They practiced and preached segregation.
In a slimy yet admittedly clever way, Wilkinson invokes Billy Graham, arguably the most influential Christian evangelist of the 20th century, to normalize segregation. The logic is simple. If Billy Graham did it, how can you condemn us for doing it?
That's not a unique stand. Billy Graham, just a few years ago, himself segregated his crusade audiences. He preached segregation.
But here's the thing. It's a lie. Billy Graham desegregated his events in the early 1950s. Wilkinson is banking on an audience not knowing the timeline. And this is precisely why, again, preparation matters. Not just for the hosts, but for everyone watching. Claims like these sound authoritative in the moment. I mean, appreciate how confidently Wilkinson said this. They only fall apart when someone checks the facts. And in a live setting, if nobody catches it, it just sits there, unchallenged, absorbed.
They practice and preach segregation, so we didn't invent segregation, we just still believe in it.
There it is, after all the dancing, a firm commitment. Wilkinson admits that he still upholds the same views. Segregation isn't history to him, it is the current goal. He's not disavowing the past, he's claiming the future. Remember this moment, because Buchanan will come back to it.
We didn't invent segregation, we just still believe in it.
Let me ask you about something, and you did correct it, let me say, before the show started, something I was unaware of. But there are a number of Klan organizations, and I gather it is not yours, who march in tandem, arm in arm, with members of the American Nazi Party. Now, the Nazis were responsible for the murder, not simply of Jews in Germany, but American pilots, American soldiers. They're guilty of all manner of horrid atrocities. They have on their, I guess on their record, some 250,000 American dead. Now, why would any patriotic American, or one who calls himself a patriotic American, be anywhere near the swastika, the insignia of Hitler's Germany?
Now, this is worth noting because this is the second technique you need if you're going to platform a racist. Attack from within their own value system. Wilkinson's entire sanitized image rests on patriotism. He's the real American fighting for the real America. So Buchanan doesn't use human right arguments. He doesn't appeal to tolerance or diversity. He uses American blood.
They have on their, I guess on their record, some 250,000 American dead.
250,000 dead soldiers. He takes the Klan's alliance with neo-Nazis and reframes it, not as racism, but as treason. He just made standing next to the swastika the most un-American thing imaginable. And now, Wilkinson's own mask is about to be used against him.
Now, why would any patriotic American, or one who calls himself a patriotic American, be anywhere near the swastika, the insignia of Hitler's Germany?
Well, as you conceded before the show, I did clear up that point. The Klan, the Invisible Empire, of which I head, detests Nazis as much as we do communists. But I'd like
We detest Nazis as much as we detest communists. Very, very John Birch coded.
to make one thing clear, that there's too much hype today about the Germans and the Nazis. Let's not forget that the Japanese
No, you say that
of
again.
Hitler's Germany.
What?
Well, as you conceded before the show, I did clear up that point. The Klan, the Invisible Empire, of which I head, detests Nazis as much as we do communists. But I'd like to make one thing clear, that there's too much hype today about the Germans and the Nazis. Let's not forget that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and they led to death marches in Bataan. I don't believe that we should condemn all of the Germans for something that happened in Germany 40 years ago.
Wilkinson can't.
Whoa. Nuremberg trial defender. Okay. Holy shit.
Can't defend the Nazi alliance. So he reaches for the oldest trick in the book. Change the subject. He brings up Pearl Harbor. He brings up the death marches. He drags in Japan because any conversation is better than the one he's currently losing. This is what it looks like when sanitization hits a wall. He can't reframe it. He can't deny it. And so he just runs. But in the scramble, he lets something slip that's far more revealing than any deflection. He says there's too much hype about the Germans and the Nazis.
There's too much hype today about the Germans and the Nazis.
Too much hype, he says. He's talking about the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jews, and he's calling it hype. That is not a pivot. That is not spin. That's Holocaust minimization, said out loud on national television.
Too much hype.
And this is exactly the kind of moment Buchanan was trying to create, because anyone watching, anyone neutral, anyone unfamiliar with the Klan, anyone tuning in for the first time, has just seen this man minimize the Holocaust on live television. The sanitization isn't just failing, it's backfiring. He came here to win people over, and instead he's showing them exactly who he is.
I don't believe that we should condemn all of the Germans for something that happened in Germany 40 years ago. And I do condemn what Hitler did to any...
Why would any patriot, someone who calls himself a patriot, and a Klan's groups with which I guess you're associated with members, if not the leadership, why would they march with people who are march under the swastika?
We don't.
You don't. Why do your colleagues do that?
I believe, to make it clear at first, we're the only national Klan organization left. There have been those that have come and gone. It's sort of like the political parties, the Democrats, Republicans, American independents. They come and they go. They splinter and they regroup and rejoin. Right now, we are the major unquestioned Klan organization in America. There's some people that we have expelled from our organization that will start other branches. In their anxiety to get membership and support, they will join with anyone, including Nazis.
Wilkinson claims that Nazi-aligned Klansmen are expelled members or splinter groups. This is classic no true Scotsman, redefining criteria to exclude counterexamples. And strategically, it's doing something very specific. It allows him to condemn Nazis on camera without condemning the ideology that attracts them. He gets to say, we detest Nazis, while leading an organization built on the very same white supremacist foundations.
There's some people that we have expelled from our organization that will start other branches.
He's keeping the distance between himself and the swastika just wide enough for the audience to give him the benefit of the doubt. But make no mistake, the Klan members that can see through the dog whistle see it for what it is.
In their anxiety to get membership and support, they will join with anyone, including Nazis.
This is not your organization, doesn't believe that. But I believe a quote by you I read in a book on the Klan today. You were denouncing the quote, I think it was Jew-controlled media. Have you used that term?
Let's really appreciate what just happened here. Buchanan let Wilkinson distance himself from the Nazis.
And I do condemn what Hitler did.
From overt anti-Semitism.
We're not anti-Semitic.
And the moment Wilkinson felt safe, the moment he thought he had escaped, Buchanan produces a direct quote. Jew-controlled media.
You were denouncing the quote, I think it was Jew-controlled media.
He read a book on the Klan that day. He knew the quote was there. And he waited until Wilkinson had finished denying anti-Semitism before he used it. That is brilliant.
You were denouncing the quote, I think it was Jew-controlled media. Have you used that term?
I may have used that term.
It's a direct quote.
I may have used that term some years ago.
What do you mean by that?
But as well, I don't mean by that anything at this point.
What do you mean by that? I don't mean anything.
In time, I believe that a lot of Jews are prominent in the media, but I believe a lot of Baptists and a lot of Methodists and a lot of other people are.
All right, so Wilkinson has clearly realized by this point that his opponents have done their homework and has quotes ready. He can't deny saying it, and so he retreats into chronology some years ago, hoping that time will soften the words.
I may have used that term some years ago.
When that doesn't work, he tries to dilute again. Jews are prominent, but so are Baptists.
A lot of Jews are prominent in the media, but I believe a lot of Baptists and a lot of Methodists and a lot of other people are.
It's the same move he tried with the Christian organization defense. Widen the frame, bury the specificity. Hope that nobody notices. But people do notice. This is exactly how you expose sanitization. You keep pulling the thread, keep producing the evidence, and let the audience watch the story unravel for themselves.
But I believe a lot of Baptists and a lot of Methodists and a lot of other people are.
Why would you use the term Jew-controlled media? I mean, you don't run around saying the Baptist-controlled media is keeping us off the air, do you?
This is a phenomenal piece of questioning. By asking why Wilkinson doesn't say Baptist-controlled media, Buchanan exposes the logic underneath the language. Nobody says Baptist-controlled anything because nobody believes Baptists are secretly coordinating to suppress the Klan. Only one group gets that treatment, and that reveals the prejudice underneath the policy language. Simple question, great preparation, devastating answer.
I mean, you don't run around saying the Baptist-controlled media is keeping us off the air, do you?
I no longer use that term. This has been a number of years ago that I would have made that comment, and I'm not apologizing for what I might have said at that time.
I was right. I'm not apologizing, but I will not use that term anymore if I don't have to. That's how, like, old people explain. We're like, I can't say the F slur anymore to my gay friends. God. I don't regret ever saying it, but I guess I'll stop saying it. It's the same fucking thing.
And here, Wilkinson is cornered. He claims he no longer uses the term. That's the sanitization.
I no longer use that term. This has been a number of years ago that I would have made that comment.
But refuses to apologize for it. That is the signal to his base.
I'm not apologizing for what I might have said at that time.
He wants to have it both ways. Polite for TV, defiant for the rally. The audience at home sees moderation. The followers at home see loyalty. Buchanan just forced him to perform that split live on camera. And to those paying attention, they can see both faces. Well played.
And I'm not apologizing for what I might have said at that time.
All right, let's talk about blacks.
All right.
Why?
Wait a minute, I want to go. My brother came.
Holy shit. Holy shit. That's just it's an insane sentence. That's fucking terrible.
Back from the airborne in Vietnam, and he told me, and that of the bodies that he took out as a medical officer, he said, 50% of those guys were black kids.
Mm-hmm.
Served in the United States and Vietnam. This was it was a crack frontline unit, and these were American blacks who died in higher numbers for their country in Southeast Asia in that war than did white Americans, as a matter of fact, in the Vietnam War. Now, how can you be against a race which contains people who are out there fighting for their country just as much as white, Christian, Protestant Americans are.
Once again, Buchanan attacks from within Wilkinson's own value system. He uses the recent trauma of Vietnam, specifically black sacrifice, to make...
Because that's the logical incoherent fallacy that this entire pro-life argument, the Christians that are pro-life are happy to torture anyone that isn't Christian, white, or as emotionally gripped by only abortion. And you have to attack from within the same ecosystem. Like with Adolf Hitler, you had to be like, hey, how did all of the Jews that all severely disagree with each other and all hated each other, how were all of them in on it? Well, because they were Jewish. Oh, it's because you're... Okay.
Wilkinson's racism look like ingratitude, and he frames the contradiction in a way that's impossible to escape. You cannot claim to be protecting Americans while despising the men who bled for it. You cannot wrap yourself in the flag while spitting on the graves of those who died defending it.
And these were American blacks who died in higher numbers for their country in Southeast Asia.
And notice that these are not abstractions. These are body bags. These are his brother's patients.
Of the bodies that he took out as a medical officer, he said, 50% of those guys were black kids.
Buchanan isn't making a philosophical point, he's making it personal, and Wilkinson has nowhere to go.
How can you be against a race which contains people who are out there fighting for their country just as much as white, Christian, Protestant Americans are?
That's something else that needs to be cleared up, Pat. We're not against the black race. We believe in free enterprise for this country. We believe that everyone should have the same rights.
The Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan is now claiming his organization supports equal rights. This is the peak of the sanitization effect, the most audacious lie of an entire interview. And Braden, true to form, has exactly what is needed to destroy it.
We believe that everyone should have the same rights.
Well,
right
Mr.
now,
Wizard, it says right here, wait a minute,
right
Mr.
now,
Wizard. Let me interrupt you for a minute, Mr. Wizard. It says right here, you believe in the final solution, which is black repatriation to Africa.
This is the second document trap of the interview. Braden produces another piece of Klan literature, proving that Wilkinson supports repatriation to Africa. That is forced deportation. Ethnic cleansing by policy. Seconds after claiming we believe that everyone should have the same rights,
we believe that everyone should have the same rights.
Wilkinson's own printed material calls for removing black Americans from the country.
It says right here, you believe in the final solution, which is black repatriation to Africa.
See,
that's how alt-writers right now go about talking about people. They say they have black fatigue. And that they say they're sick and tired of the third world filth getting into our country. And if you're really not producing anything, and you're just here if you're just here snorkeling at the benefit of the welfare system as an immigrant, and you're just bringing your third world filth in here, then you really don't belong here, and you should probably, we should probably deport those people. That's literally what these goobers think.
See the pattern? When Braden brought up the exclusion of Jews, he knew Wilkinson would try to sanitize it, and he was ready with the recruitment flyer. When Buchanan brought up black patriots, he knew Wilkinson would claim to support equal rights. Again, preparation, and Braden was ready with the repatriation literature. They're not reacting to Wilkinson's lies, they're anticipating them. Because once you understand that an extremist's entire game is sanitization, their moves become incredibly predictable, and that means that you can have the receipts ready before they even finish the lie.
You believe in the final solution, which is black repatriation to Africa. Now,
Abraham Lincoln, but now look, I'm not going to be cut off in the middle.
No, but I'm not going to be shut off either. You're running around on a bed sheet. I don't have the bed sheet. But I just want to tell you, I want to ask you this question. Can you imagine this country repatriating all the black Americans that Pat just spoke about to Africa?
No.
I mean, what kind of nonsense
No, I
is
can't.
that? Well, what are you saying it for then?
I'm not saying it.
Well, it says right here.
No, that's your paper. That's not my paper.
That's your paper. I took the...
No.
Nuh-uh. They got the Klan to go, no. nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. God, you guys are filthy. That's fucking funny as shit.
And wrote it on this blue
That's
type.
not.
Are you still there? Are you asleep?
I'm here, bro. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm here, bro. I'm here.
Oh, you went to bed, bro.
No, I'm here. I'm halfway asleep, but I'm listening.
That's fucking awesome. I'm gonna be up for like the next 6 hours, so if you just want to chill here, I'm down.
My paper.
Faced with his own words, Wilkinson simply says, "That's not my paper." Just
I'm
flat
probably gonna end
denial.
up
It doesn't
crashing,
matter
but
that Braden is
I'll watch till the very end.
Hell yeah.
holding the quote. It doesn't matter that it's printed and verifiable. Wilkinson just pretends it doesn't exist.
Well, it says right here.
No, that's your paper. That's not my paper.
That's your paper. I took the quote and wrote it on this blue
That's
type.
not my paper.
This is what happens when the sanitization collapses completely. They have nowhere left to go except denial. Not reframing, not recontextualizing, just no. It's a sign that you've won the exchange. When they stop spinning and start simply denying reality, you've broken through.
That's not my paper.
And anyone watching with an open mind can see it. The people you were never going to reach, they were lost before the interview started.
The people you were going to reach were lost.
No, I hate to see him go, but
Shut up. That right there, when the sanitizer or the apologist or the defender hits the breaking point of reality, they must deny reality. And that is what the entire Trump campaign has been hinging on. All of the conspiracies that people believe in that are like the QAnon or Project any one of those. The fact that they think that no, Trump, he's gonna save us from it. He's not. He Elon Musk totally didn't do a Nazi salute, guys. Look, he's just joking. He's not making Nazi jokes. The Department of Homeland Security is not posting Nazi fucking white nationalist rhetoric. Okay, you have officially now denied reality.
But the people in the middle, the ones who might have been curious about what the Klan actually stands for, they just watched a man deny his own literature on live television. That's the moment you're doing all of this for.
Well, it says right here.
No, that's your paper. That's not my paper.
That's your paper. I took the quote and wrote it on this blue type.
That's not my paper. Now, to get back to it, now just a minute, I answered your question. Now, I want to finish what I was saying. We feel that affirmative action is discriminating against white people, and there is no question about it. Two wrongs don't make a right. Because black people were hurt and discriminated against in the past does not justify the discrimination against white people now. And we're asking for an end to that.
Look.
Wilkinson realizes that he's losing on deportation. So he forces a pivot to affirmative action. He's retreating to safe ground, a topic where he might find agreement with the conservative host. He's trying to escape from KKK extremism to standard right-wing grievance politics. Different battlefield, more sympathetic terrain.
We feel that affirmative action is discriminating against white people.
This is important to recognize, because it's another move in the playbook. When the conversation gets dangerous, extremists will try to drag it onto ground where they sound like mainstream conservatives. They want to blur the line between their position and standard conservatives. Refuse them. That is what Buchanan does next.
Because black people were hurt and discriminated against in the past does not justify the discrimination against white people now. And we're asking for an end to that.
Look, I'm against reverse discrimination. I'm against racial quotas. I'm against affirmative action as it's practiced. But you said, when I introduced you, I didn't say that your organization was. I said historically to most Americans, you're anti-Catholic and anti-Semitic and racist. In other words, anti-black. You said, we're not anti-Catholic.
Right.
We're not anti-Semitic. You didn't deny the racist thing.
And here is the third technique. Notice what they don't say. Buchanan does something brilliant here. He agrees with Wilkinson on affirmative action, closing that escape route entirely.
I'm against reverse discrimination. I'm against racial quotas. I'm against affirmative action as it's practiced.
And then circles all the way back to the very beginning. He's noticed an admission. Wilkinson denied two labels, but silently accepted the third. He said, we're not anti-Catholic and we're not anti-Semitic, but he never said we're not racist.
We are not anti-Catholic. We are not anti-Semitic.
That silence was an admission, and Buchanan has held on to that for minutes, waiting for the exact moment to use it.
You didn't deny the racist thing.
Well, it depends on your definition of racist. I'm a segregationist, okay?
The game is up. After all of it, after claiming that we're not against the black race, after insisting that his organization believes in equal rights,
we're not against the black race. We believe that everyone should have the same rights.
After all of the careful sanitization, Wilkinson drops the mask, admitting that he's a segregationist.
I'm a segregationist.
Which is like saying that I'm not sexist, I just think that women belong in the kitchen. Friends, that is the same thing. He can no longer sustain the lie.
I'm a segregationist, okay? I believe that God has commanded me not to mix with other races. For that reason, I want to have schools where I can send my children to a white school. I want to be able to go to my white neighborhoods, to white businesses, for those things. So if that terms me as a racist, then I'm a racist.
Then I'm a racist, so says the Grand Wizard of Cringe. And in doing so, he has fully abandoned the civil rights organization pretense. Quite the journey, huh? He began this interview claiming to represent the interests of white Americans through legal advocacy.
The federal laws, the civil rights laws, have created a dual system of justice in this country.
And with just a little bit of pressure from the hosts and a whole lot...
I can't keep my eyes open.
No, you're good. It's been a pleasure chatting. Get a good night's sleep.
Yep, good night.
That's funny as fuck.
Of preparation, he's now confirming exactly what Buchanan charged him with in the opening minute.
So if that terms me as a racist, then I'm a racist.
The sanitization has completely collapsed, and this is what sustained pressure does. If you keep the questions coming, if you keep producing evidence, if you notice what they avoid, eventually the mask does come off. It has to, because the lie is exhausting to maintain, and the truth is always simpler.
So if that terms me as a racist, then I'm a racist.
Wait a minute, you can do that, but you can't have tax exemptions in your all-white school. And if it's a public school, now black kids whose parents' taxes pay for that school, they got a right to go to that neighborhood school. Now, if you want an all-white school, all-white academy, you can do that right now. You just don't get a tax exemption for it. So what's your complaint?
Buchanan strips away the last layer of victimhood.
I think that's so funny, because that was the very thing that Paul Rywick mobilized people on. Because, dude, imagine that you even could do that, and you're still bitching. Imagine that you're that mad that, oh, it's one thing to make me have to make my own school. It's another thing to make me have to pay a little bit more. Wow. Wow. And enough motherfuckers would go into the whole realm of being a conservative. Not because they were racist, because they thought, yeah, the government doesn't have any right to tell us these. Just, wow, dude.
Wilkinson isn't being oppressed. He's free to be a racist in private. He just can't make taxpayers fund it. So, what exactly is the complaint?
You can do that right now. You just don't get a tax exemption for it. What's your complaint?
You say you can do that. Now, maybe I can. Maybe you can. But what about the poor people that don't have the money to send their children to private schools? They can't. They're being deprived the right to practice their religion because they don't have the money to send them to a private school. There's no reason why in this great land of ours we couldn't have a three-tiered school system, a black school and a white school and an integrated school, and give everyone their choice. We would have much less dissension. We would have much less racial problems in the schools. And if those people that are seeking to integrate the races in this country really were seeking to do the best for both races, they would adopt.
This is like imagining, well, if the daughter got sexually abused by the father and the daughter wants to carry the baby, we should support that, and it should be their choice, and it's up to them, and we have no right to make that decision. It's like, it's just an extension of, like, I gotta hand Bill Wilkinson credit for creativity, simply because he imagined, you know, that there would be enough people that would hear this out and say, yes, this is the right way we go forward. You had to ask yourselves, why did you feel the fear of integration in the first place? And if Bill Wilkinson really believed that there was enough people that had non-racist reasons, like the reasons of why you would want a segregated school, if he believed that there were enough people where I feel like the only correct way to move forward with this conundrum is to give everyone the option in a three-tier school system, is the most sanitized, coded language way of him trying to do what Ronald Reagan did and bureaucracyify and use very specific government structured language in order to create policy that fits the worldview without having to acknowledge the worldview, because the worldview is you can't defend the worldview or the policy, so you have to come up with a built-in caricature of what it is masking as inside the bill itself and inside the pitch of the idea of what it is. And like, if anyone in my friend group, like when my old scuffed ass friend group heard this, we were all deep in the propaganda bubble, but whenever we heard someone in a group call doing something like this, something of that sort of, well, hold on, if there's already, like, I heard a guy, if there's already laws put in place to allow for 16-year-olds to give birth and be mothers, and who are we to raise the age of consent? Like, whoa. So you're not arguing about it from the perspective at all of what the fuck they're arguing. You're merely arguing on the systematic implementation of the problem. Because you don't want to talk about what is or isn't the problem. You want to talk about, well, do the rules? Because it's the same people that say that, oh, I don't support Trump, but I support America. If I think that saying that Trump is doing a bad job, that means that I want America to fail, and I don't want America to fail, so I'm going to support Trump. It's literally like, it's just brain rot. It's just brain rot designed to repackage this exact talking strategy into broader and broader and broader terms.
This system, and really we're seeking to do the best for both races. They would adopt this system and let integration proceed gradually.
Even after
to come up with that story to say that, oh, if only we were able to choose when we wanted to integrate, then there would be blah, 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 blah. After your community killed thousands of people is kind of impossible to process. Your value and your words, the value of your words that you speak with this talking point after your history is cannot coexist in the same sentence.
Admitting that he's a racist, Wilkinson can't help himself. He's still sanitizing. A three-tiered school system, a black school, a white school, and an integrated school. He's trying to make apartheid sound like a school choice.
Three-tiered school system, a black school and a white school and an integrated school, and give everyone their choice.
And look, we need to really appreciate how he packages this, because this is where 1982 sounds exactly like 2026. He's using the language of freedom. Give everyone their choice. He's using the language of fairness.
The Ronald Reaganification.
Let integration proceed gradually. He's framing state-sponsored segregation as common sense. And notice what's completely absent from his argument: any acknowledgement of why integration was necessary in the first place. The centuries of systemic advantage, the decades of deliberate exclusion, the fact that black Americans weren't given choice about segregation in the first place. He erases all of that history and presents the current state of affairs as the level playing field the white people are now unfairly losing on.
They're being deprived the right to practice their religion because they don't have the money to send them to a private school.
Now, if
think about the poor people. Oh, you bastard.
That sounds familiar. It should. It's the exact same framework that Donald Trump built his campaigns on. Strip away the context, ignore the history, and repackage white grievance as a fight for equality. The late Charlie Kirk did it. frequently.
We note in our piece that Kirk describes King as, quote, a bad guy. It's true. And Kirk's self-described very, very radical view that the country made a mistake when it passed the Civil Rights Act. Also true.
They are conditioned to believe white bad, black good. White bad, black good.
Tucker Carlson does it frequently.
The Great Replacement is not only real, it's the realest thing there is. We've all internalized this hate white people thing.
It's the playbook that launched 1,000 grifts. Wilkinson's mask is on the floor, and he's still trying to pick it up and hold it in front of his face.
And if those people that are seeking to integrate the races in this country really were seeking to do the best for both races, they would adopt this system and let integration proceed gradually.
What do you think our founding fathers meant when they said "we, the people of the United States"?
Well, I won't get into that debate, but...
Well, I know, but you're sitting here in your bed sheet telling us all that the only thing you're for, you're against...
You're really upset about my bed sheet.
Oh, yeah, I think, you know, if I were you, I would be so ashamed of myself. I mean, I can't imagine walking around in that silly costume telling people to be against blacks and against Jews.
Have you ever seen the Pope and the Cardinals in their costumes?
Yeah.
All right, I'll give him this. Religious pomposity is pretty pathetic. But trust a racist to make me, of all people, defend of all institutions, the Catholic Church. Wilkinson is comparing his Klan robe to the Pope's vestments.
Have you ever seen the Pope and the Cardinals in their costumes?
Yeah.
And in the act, trying to steal the legitimacy of the Church, the same institution he earlier dismissed as a lesser issue to dignify his costume.
You were anti-Catholic.
The Klan has had different views from time to time on
lesser issues.
Here's the false equivalence. The Pope's robes are ceremonial vestments. The Klan hood exists to hide your face while you terrorize people. When you're comparing yourself to the Vatican to justify your outfit, you've run out of substance entirely.
Have you ever seen the Pope and the Cardinals in their costumes?
Yeah, but they're religious and they're for something, and you're just nothing but against something, and you're against the very spirit of this country.
I believe in the same God.
You're against the thing.
No, we're not.
You're against the thing that makes this country a unity and that makes this country great. And I think you're a disgrace.
Notice that once again, Braden is pulling on the values that make America. He isn't just expressing frustration, he's illustrating that Wilkinson stands against the very heart of the country. It's the same move that Buchanan made with the dead soldiers, using the values that Wilkinson claims to hold against him.
You're against the thing that makes this country a unity and that makes this country great.
And then Braden stops debating and delivers a verdict. You are a disgrace. The engagement is over. Wilkinson is no longer being treated as a participant in a dialogue. He's being treated as a moral failure.
I think you're a disgrace.
You know nothing about what I believe and what I
just heard what you believed.
That single line, I just heard what you believe, is perhaps the most important line of the entire interview. It says, I don't need to guess, I don't need to interpret. You told me, you told everyone. And that's why this approach works. The hosts didn't put words in Wilkinson's mouth, they created the conditions for him to put them there himself.
I just heard what you believed.
And you think
now you tell me,
I believe in God. Is that wrong?
Do you deny that you said this, that this is the literature you're handing out to schools, to school children in America? I just quoted this from your own pamphlet. Are you fed up, it says here, with blacks following you home, trying to beat you up?
Do
you deny that you said that?
No, I don't. And let me tell you, that happens more times in America than what you can shake a stick at.
And goes straight to Charlie Kirk. Good.
Happening all the time in urban America. Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more.
And let me tell you, that happens more times in America than what you can shake a stick at.
And there goes the last shred of patience. The man who said, we're not against the black race, is now defending his own recruitment flyer. One that warns white children, black people will follow them home and beat them up. He's not even trying to explain it away anymore. He's validating it. The sanitization is completely gone.
No, I don't. And let me tell you, that happens more times in America than what you can shake a stick at. Blacks.
Try to follow you home and beat you up.
We've had more racial problems
You're a damn
than muggings.
disgrace to the country.
No.
Oh, yes, you are.
I have a strong belief.
And you know what? You people were beaten. I don't know what we're doing in 1982 talking to you.
You people were beaten. Braden declares victory, not just in this debate, but in history. The civil rights movement won. Integration happened. The Klan lost.
You people were beaten.
He strips away any power or fear that Wilkinson is trying to project. You're not a threat. You are a relic.
I don't know what we're doing in 1982 talking to you.
Well, that's your problem, Tom. But let me tell you one thing. I'm not beaten, the Klan is not beaten, and the white race is not beaten. No more than the Democrats is beating or the Republicans is beaten. They're all fighting for the things that they believe in, and we believe in something.
All right, what do you believe in?
Earnestly through the law.
Well, let's get.
Now, you told me what you were against. What do you believe in?
What we believe in.
What are you for?
We believe in God, we believe in the United States of America, and we believe that God has commanded us to separate ourselves from other races. Not because we hate the other races or because we feel that we're better or worse, but because we feel it's God's commandment. And if you criticize that in our religion, then you're criticizing the Christianity for the last 2,000 years.
In the final seconds, Wilkinson retreats behind God. By framing segregation as divine commandment, he tries to make criticism of the Klan an attack on Christianity itself.
And we believe that God has commanded us to separate ourselves from other races.
And this should send chills down your spine, because it's the exact same move we see today. Trump wraps himself in the Bible. White nationalists cloak their politics in Christian identity. Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, the entire MAGA industry is predicated on what? Christianity, apparently. And there is a reason for this. Religion is the ultimate shield. You can argue with policy, you can fact-check a claim, you can expose a lie with a document, but the moment someone says God commanded it, they've moved the conversation from evidence to faith. And faith, by definition, doesn't require proof. It's all about feelings. That's why it's always the last refuge. When every other justification has been stripped away, God is the one authority you can't cross-examine.
You didn't deny the racist thing.
Well, it depends on your definition of racist.
And with that, the interview is over. Let's step back and appreciate what we've just seen. Wilkinson came to sanitize, and he left exposed. He began by claiming to be a civil rights leader for white Americans.
White Americans are being treated as second-class citizens. Federal laws, the civil rights laws, have created a dual system of justice in this country.
We're not anti-Semitic, not against blacks. We believe everyone should have the same rights. How lovely.
We are not anti-Catholic. We are not anti-Semitic. We're not against the black race. We believe that everyone should have the same rights.
And he ended by admitting that he's a racist and a segregationist who believes that God commands separation.
So if that terms me as a racist, then I'm a racist. I'm a segregationist, okay? And we believe that God has commanded us to separate ourselves from other races.
So how did it happen? What did Braden and Buchanan actually do? First, they were prepared. They had Wilkinson's own documents, recruitment flyers, printed literature.
It says, if you want to join the Klan, quote, I swear that I am of white, non-Jewish heritage. Are you fed up with special privileges given to blacks? That's a quotation from your own literature.
Direct quotes from books.
A quote by you I read in a book on the Klan today. You were denouncing the quote, I think it was Jew-controlled media. Have you used that term?
Every time he lied about what the Klan stands for, they pulled out proof of what the Klan actually said. You cannot do this without preparation. So, if you are going to give a platform to someone dangerous, you must know their material better than they do. In my opinion, that is a prerequisite. If you don't do that, you are genuinely doing the world a disservice. Second, they attacked from within his value system. Buchanan didn't lecture Wilkinson on human rights or tolerance. He used patriotism, American sacrifice, and military service.
Why would any patriotic American, or one who calls himself a patriotic American, be anywhere near the swastika, the insignia of Hitler's Germany? How can you be against a race which contains people who are out there fighting for their country just as much as white Christian Protestant Americans are?
The things that Wilkinson claims to care about and turn them against him. When you challenge an extremist using values they can't disown, they have nowhere to hide. Third, they notice what he didn't say. Wilkinson denied being anti-Catholic, he denied being anti-Semitic. He never denied being racist. Buchanan caught that silence and held on to it for the entire interview. He deployed it when he saw fit.
You said, we're not anti-Catholic,
right?
We're not anti-Semitic. You didn't deny the racist thing.
What people avoid telling you, what they don't say, is often more revealing than what they volunteer. And fourth, they kept the pressure on. They didn't let Wilkinson control the conversation. Every time he tried to retreat to safe ground, affirmative action, school choice, religious freedom, they dragged him back to the thing he was trying to escape, what the Klan actually is, in its own words. This is how you platform a racist. Not by giving them a soapbox, not by debating them as if their positions have equal merit, but by coming prepared, using their own words, and letting sustained pressure of honest questioning do what it always does. Force the truth out. The costumes may have changed since 1982. The playbook hasn't. And now, neither should ours.
If I were you, I would be so ashamed of myself. I mean, I can't imagine walking around in that silly costume telling people to be against blacks and against Jews.
Anyhow, as always, thank you kindly for the view.
Beautiful video, beautiful video. And we're going to go from that to a different recreation of the Klan. The current Klan.
Heavily implied. Yeah. Remember the Christian apologist guy I covered recently who films himself harassing people who live on the streets? The guy who seeks out people with disorganized speech from neurological damage done by years of homelessness, badgers them to say Jesus is Lord, and if they can't immediately say it, calls them demon-possessed?
Wait, can you say Jesus is Lord?
Yeah, is it strategic stuff?
No. Can you? Are you able to say that?
It's a mineral thing.
No. It's who Jesus is. Jesus is Lord. Are you able to say that? Can you say Jesus is Lord?
Secondhand embarrassment is strong with this one. Now, this one's actually like one of the most tough ones to watch because this guy works with Turning Point.
Yeah, not really. I wouldn't prefer to.
The demons that are messing with you.
Yes.
Do you want them to stop messing with you? Okay, I'm going to pray for you. God, we plead the blood of Jesus over Andrew right now in Jesus' mighty name. Any demons inside of him or tormenting Andrew, we rebuke them right now.
Yeah, Bryce Crawford is his name, and I've got to say, he's absolutely outdone himself with his latest video. Let me ask you, if you had the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan in front of you, and you had 6 months to prepare for that moment, what would you do? What would you say? For Bryce, this question is not hypothetical. He got his chance, and he said this right off the bat.
What have you heard about me?
What have I heard about you?
And what a perception you have?
Well, what I've heard about you is just what I've watched online. Interviews, whether they've been prank interviews or normal interviews. And I think you're a very kind, gentle human. I don't think you're mean, aggressive. I don't think anything like that. I've never thought that out of any of the interviews that I've watched.
Oh, but Bryce's love for the Grand Wizard does not stop there. No, he quite literally makes that love explicit in the course of their conversation.
I appreciate you sticking to your beliefs and sticking to your guns and explain how you feel. I personally, with all due respect, I think I just have a really hard time, respectfully, I have a really hard time wrapping my mind around that. With all due respect, God, thank you for my kind, respectful conversation with Pastor Thomas Robb. Look, you're the Grand Wizard of the Knights Party of the KKK, and I love you. I think you're a kind, gentle human being, and I've had a joy talking to you.
Yes, this is where Christian apologetics is now, explicitly showing love and respect for the leader of the largest terrorist organization in American history. And as appalling as this is, this shouldn't surprise us at all. Let me take you through this video and explain. First, just to provide a little contrast and perspective here, while Christian nationalists are praising the KKK and justifying ICE murdering people, a group of Buddhist monks are currently walking from my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas to Washington. What we're about to cover, this recent video on Bryce Crawford's channel, is not a debate, but an interview with Thomas Robb, the Grand Imperial Wizard, or in other words, the leader of the KKK. It takes place inside Thomas's church, where he is the pastor. Bryce, if you weren't aware, is one of the rising stars of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's Christian nationalist organization. He's also a Bible major at Liberty University, where he's hosted massive events. This is an evangelical school founded by evangelist Jerry Falwell in Lynchburg, Virginia. Bryce says,
Whoa, wait, what?
Major at Liberty University, where he's hosted massive events. This is an evangelical school founded by evangelist Jerry Falwell in Lynchburg, Virginia.
The guy that co-founded the Moral Majority and worked in the 70s with Paul Raywick. The guy that... Holy shit. Holy shit. That guy?
Bryce says evangelical school founded by evangelist Jerry Falwell. Aware, it takes place inside Thomas's church, where he is the pastor. Bryce, if you weren't aware, is one of the rising stars of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's Christian nationalist organization. He's also a Bible major at Liberty University, where he's hosted massive events. This is an evangelical school founded by evangelist Jerry Falwell in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Liberty University in Lynchburg. That's how you indoctrinate the youth. Holy shit. Enough so to normalize the Klansman's rhetoric.
Bryce says he sought out this dialogue with Thomas for 6 months. You've already seen the intro.
And I think you're a very kind, gentle human.
So let's skip ahead a little bit. Bryce asks Thomas to tell us about himself. He explains that he was raised in a politically active home which loved Joseph McCarthy back in the 50s.
Joseph McCarthy was very well known. He was a senator from Wisconsin. He was very well known back in the early 1950s. Okay. And he was doing what Donald Trump is doing today. He was going after the deep state. And he was going after the communists, the leftists and liberals within our State Department. They are naturally drawn to politics.
That's That's what Rush Limbaugh talks about all the time. The exact thing that Rush Limbaugh trained our grandparents to hate is exactly what... I'm gonna let this video play, but I wanna get that name one more time.
He in the early
50s.
Joseph McCarthy was very well known. He was a senator from Wisconsin. He was very well known back in the early 1950s. Okay. And he was doing what Donald Trump is doing today. He was going after the deep state. And he was going after the communists, the leftists and liberals within our State Department. They are naturally drawn to politics, you know. And because politics has so much control, maybe the wrong word, influence, over our society. And then I became more aware of what we today call white genocide.
Thomas then recites statistics to Bryce about supposed white replacement, and Bryce doesn't challenge this at all. This culminates in Thomas...
Bryce doesn't challenge the white replacement propaganda talking point? Oh my god, that's crazy. What was his name? Hold on, I gotta get that name one more time.
He was from Wisconsin. He was
in a politically active home which loved Joseph McCarthy back in the 50s.
Joseph McCarthy was very well known. He was a senator from Wisconsin. He was very well known back in the early 1950s. Okay. And he was doing what Donald Trump is doing today. He was going after the deep state. And he was going after the communists, the leftists and liberals within our State Department. They are naturally drawn to politics, you know. And because politics has so much control, maybe the wrong word, influence, over our society. And then I became more aware of what we today call white genocide.
Thomas then recites statistics to Bryce about supposed white replacement, and Bryce doesn't challenge this at all. This culminates in Thomas expressing some familiar talking points.
In 1980, okay, we're somewhere around 72% white, 92% white. Okay, they're saying we were being invaded by...
That's the guy that the... Joseph McCarthy was the guy that the John Birch Society literally felt as their martyr. Joseph McCarthy was one of the people that inspired the John Birch Society. Holy shit.
Massive non-white immigration come to this country. We're told that we're all the same. And yet, if we're all the same, why is there going to be a change in culture, politics, education, values?
At this point, we're about 10 minutes into the video, and Bryce hasn't pushed back at all. This is very typical Klan rhetoric, which they've been pushing for decades, if not over a century, yes. But it's certainly not foreign to mainstream conservative Christian audiences at this point. Charlie Kirk, the founder and leader of Turning Point USA, taught this Great Replacement conspiracy theory himself.
The Great Replacement of white people is far more sinister than any redistricting project. That is at the core of the Democrat project. At the core. But it's deathly serious. You shouldn't take what she says seriously. It's just a joke. What she represents is very serious, which is the continued attempt to eliminate the white population in this country.
Bryce's latest guest on his podcast, Tucker Carlson, also promotes this KKK-born idea.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. But why? Well, Joe Biden just said it. To change the racial mix of the country. That's the reason. To reduce the political power of people whose ancestors lived here and dramatically increase the proportion of Americans newly arrived from the third world.
What are you talking about? Listen to Tucker say that again.
To change the racial mix of the country. That's the reason. To reduce the political power of people whose ancestors lived here and dramatically increase the proportion of Americans newly arrived from the third world. This policy is called the Great Replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient people from faraway countries.
They don't like the people who live here, and they want to change the population. That's why. It's about mass demographic replacement. Of course.
To Bryce, then, I doubt this conspiracy theory appears to be born of the Klan. It's more likely he sees this as the Klansman espousing typical conservative Christian talking points here. Because he is. However mainstream, though, this conspiracy theory is baseless. No group, elite or otherwise, is planning to diminish the presence of white people in America or Europe. There is no evidence for any such plan, and besides, if white people do become a minority in any given place, why is that concerning? Well, proponents of the Great Replacement conspiracy theory say, non-white people are biologically and thus culturally and civilizationally inferior to white people, so letting non-white people coexist as equals with white people leads to the degeneration of Anglo-Saxon Protestant civilization. And yes, Charlie Kirk taught this, but we'll get into that later. For now, more from Thomas.
Our society had been devalued over the past 40, 50 years. And you sit and wonder why it has become devalued. Is because we have had this intrusion of foreign people that did not assimilate into our culture or our faith. And so we have a nation today that welcomes trans, welcomes sodomy, promotes pornography.
Bro, that's literally all what Hitler was angry about. You're literally just Hitler right now. He's talking to a neo-Nazi right now. He's talking to Bryce Crawford is interviewing a fucking Christian neo-Nazi right now. Also, Trump's absolute fucking mental destruction of him saying on his Truth Social, transgender for everybody, transgender for everybody. Like he's just retarded.
Which was a Jewish institution. Which, if you question me on that, pornography, which was a Jewish institution.
The Jews invented pornography. Oh my god, these people are cooked, bro. I get so much Nazi propaganda on my Twitter, and it basically says the same shit. Like, there's just so much Nazi propaganda on Twitter, and there are so many people that are like 90% of it is bots. I know, but like I know people are lost in it, and that's what they're having to see, and they're like, oh yeah, it's all Israel. It's all Israel. It's like, oh my god.
Which, if you question me on that, I can show you why. promote all kinds of values, trashes Christianity, trashes Jesus Christ every opportunity by national media. But Christians said, no, you will not trans my kids. You're not going to turn my kids into sodomites.
You are not trans, my kids.
You're not going to force them to devalue the Christian faith. And so, because of national media, which is controlled by Jews, the national media then takes those people and demonizes them.
Again, this is mainstream right-wing rhetoric, which Turning Point USA propagates.
The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population.
For many decades, there have been people who are trying to fundamentally change who we are. And there was a man by the name of Cleon Skousen who wrote a book called The Naked Communist in the 50s. And he exposed the things that were being done by the Marxists. They also had a goal of gaining control of the media and Hollywood so they could change the culture in America.
Holy shit! This is on a stage, and you're just speaking straight conspiracy. Holy shit!
Making sexual perversion normal, natural, and healthy. And speaking of that,
after we're done watching this video, we're gonna go listen to Adolf Hitler's speeches and see that this is exactly what it was.
50s, who wrote a book called The Naked Communist in the 50s. And he exposed the things that were being done by the Marxists. They also had a goal of gaining control of the media and Hollywood so they could change the culture in America. Making sexual perversion normal, natural, and healthy. And speaking of that, pushing God out of our society and changing the gospel to the social gospel.
Now, I know you didn't hear the phrase "the Jews" explicitly in those Turning Point clips, but rest assured, that's still in there. Kirk blamed non-Christians, which includes Jews, for American degeneracy, of course. But further, that book, which Ben Carson promoted at Kirk's memorial, was written by a man who was so far right that even the FBI had him on a watch list in the 1960s, and his followers were known to burn crosses on the lawns of political officials they resented. You know, like the Klan does. Also, the whole cultural Marxism conspiracy theory is quite literally a rebranding of anti-Jewish conspiracy theories in the first place. Bryce then asks,
you mentioned the phrase earlier outside, and you mentioned it again a moment ago, white nationalism.
Yeah.
That's something that you can, I just want you to define white nationalism for yourself so I don't take anything out of context. What is white nationalism according to you?
Well, white nationalism really would be white Christian nationalism.
Okay.
You know, is the identity of our people. We have a people worth preserving.
Yes, the KKK is explicit about its project being one of white Christian nationalism, and it always has been. They want a country with one culture, an Anglo-Saxon Christian culture. You can probably see where I'm going with this.
That men can be men and women can be women. We want a nation that speaks English, has a unified culture, that values God again, that has not been taken over by the communist Chinese or by radical Islamism.
Yeah, I do wonder what was going through Bryce's head at this moment, because it's pretty clear that the main difference between the Grand Wizard and Bryce's Turning Point USA hero is that the former explicitly states that he wants a single white Christian culture, and the latter says he wants a single Christian culture, and then heavily implies the white part. Bryce very briefly pushes back for the first time in this video soon after this moment, and their disagreement actually makes them appear even more similar.
What's really important is your white Christian nationalism is who you are as a people. When a child is born, I refer to this as the birth covenant. When a child is born, it's not say, oh, there's a baby lawyer, there's a baby architect, there's a baby YouTuber, there's a baby accountant. God only gave that baby 2 identification marks. Am I right?
Yeah, male or female.
Well, male or female, that's one identification mark. What's the other one?
What's the one that you're talking about?
Race.
Now,
race and gender.
Now oh, that's how you were classifying it, race and gender.
Yeah.
Now, those are things that someone can't control. They can control how they're, like, you know, I couldn't control that I was born from a white family and I was born a boy. I couldn't control that, right?
So Thomas cites race as an immutable, God-assigned identity in order to say that it is legitimate to demand that we act according to God-assigned roles for that identity. For him, that means having different countries for different races. Bryce agrees with this logic of God-assigned identities and roles, just not for race.
I believe that in the Bible, God designed man and a woman to come together under one covenant for one lifetime, to make a commitment to each other before God, and anything outside of that would be considered sin.
But if God has an original design for all of mankind, anything outside of the original design would be considered perverted in sin, right? So if God designed Allie as a boy, and then Allie is now claiming to be a girl, right? You would be outside of this original design that God has, and God says, no, I actually designed you as a boy.
All right, guys, we're at furry
It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Like, that whole talking point, just to devalue the normalization of homosexuality and demonize it at the same time, has led to so much trauma and so much fucking bullshit. Unnecessary shit, and the white religious fanatics will hold on to it like, no. Oh, Mordhau crashed. Cool. I'll be like, no, we don't like gay people. It's bad. We don't like gay people. And it's like, holy shit, you guys are pathetic.
By the title of
This original design that God has, and God says, no, I actually designed you as a boy.
All right, guys, we're at Furry Con. By the title of the video, you know we're preaching the gospel here, because something that's been on my heart lately is the war that Satan is waging against the identity of human beings. Because the reality is, God did not design human beings to act like animals. He designed human beings to walk out the gender identity that he made, which was male and female.
Yeah, the KKK's argument for racial roles follows the exact same logic as the conservative Christians' argument for gender roles. It's a bit shocking to me then that Bryce's counter to Thomas's concern about God-given racial identity roles is that's a thing we can't control, implying, I suppose, that since a person can't control those traits, they should not be discriminated against on the basis of those traits. But Bryce, would you accept that argument from a queer person? No, we know for a fact you would not.
People were coming up to me today and saying, Bryce, I was born gay. No one is born gay. We're born into sin. And this doesn't have to do just with homosexuality. This is everything. People say, oh, well, I was born this, and I was born with this issue, and I was born with this. No, we were born into sin. And sometimes it seems like, oh, this is a hopeless scenario, but the hope is that Jesus Christ can save us from our hopelessness.
Where the fuck is he? These two clowns. Not so much Blair. Milo literally is now publicly claiming that he's celibate. He does not engage in sexual activity because you're right. It's not a choice to be gay. I can't choose to be straight. So I'm gonna just not be gay. Like, oh my fucking God, you fucking idiot. He doesn't realize that your entire point of being on the alt-right was to be the fall guy, to say that hey, look, I'm gay and I'm allowed to be on the alt-right. See, we're not all crazy. We're just anti-establishment folk. And now he goes around touring with Christian organizations, devoting himself to being asexual because he says he woke up and doesn't want to go to hell and he's not going to be gay anymore because being gay is sin. Like, oh my God, you were married. He's now your roommate, apparently. And he had a partner and they're no longer partners. And he claims to, because he argued for so long that, yeah, like you can't make a gay guy be straight. You just have to allow yourself to let Christ into your heart and all that dumb shit. And it's just so embarrassing that he was willing to do whatever the fuck he wanted in order to stay within the ecosystem. And
You know, I am homosexual, I can see that interesting, but he's never done bad.
Yeah.
He was a bad tweet, he's just like a normal, like anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
I believe that you're God's child, and I believe that if God can come live inside of our hearts and we read the Word of God and pray, that He can actually change our desires. Would it be okay if I prayed for you?
Imitating Bryce here, Thomas could just as easily say, you say you can't change your race, but you can seek God and let Him change your desires so that you want to follow His original design for your race. A perfect design where you stay separate from other races. Some of Bryce's commenters seem to get this and take Thomas's side. One of the top comments on this video is Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Jesus Christ. And I believe the intention with this is to say, you know, racism bad. But one commenter replies, writing across a couple of comments, but there are genders and gender roles. He's saying there is no race, and I'm saying there is race and racial realities the same way there are gender realities. There are many, many more comments like this in that comment section. So, platforming the Grand Wizard of the KKK is bad, obviously, and calling him a nice guy is fucking absurd and detestable, but it's this which makes Bryce's interview with Thomas particularly egregious. Bryce's audience is one which has already been conditioned to accept the theological reasoning which the Klan employs. When Bryce provides the Klansmen a viral opportunity to explain how that theology applies to race, it creates an opportunity for his audience to think, oh, maybe the Grand Wizard has a point. Maybe I should be concerned about race mixing. In fact, when Bryce asks Thomas about racism and segregation directly, Thomas gives an answer which any Turning Point USA fan or Liberty University student has probably heard multiple times, just in slightly different words.
Would you consider yourself a racist?
What's a racist?
I don't know, you tell me. Would you consider yourself a racist?
Question.
Do you consider yourself a racist? Someone who believes in segregation, who hates the unity of races? I don't know, do you consider yourself a racist?
So you believe in segregation that makes you a racist?
Do you believe that, like,
That's literally everything. He's laughing like, so just because I believe in segregation, that makes me a racist? What? I'm just doing what God told me to do.
Consider yourself a racist?
So you believe in segregation that makes you a racist?
Do you believe that, like, you know, we were just at a theater in Birmingham last night. In 1914, they had a separate door that black people had to walk through and a separate balcony part in the theater that black people could sit in. They couldn't see the white people from the top. Do you believe it should go back to that?
I think the black people are better off then.
Why is that?
Cue the clip of Charlie Kirk on Jubilee saying that they had it better in the 1940s.
Because there were a lot of...
I'll tell you why, because back in the 1940s, 1950s, 85% of the black families had a father at home. They don't have them at home today. So the standards that were created back then made stronger white families and made stronger black families, because those people were under the rule of law. And that rule of law was governed them, and they attempted, it appears like, maybe I'm wrong, but it appears they attempted to be like the white man. And so they fashioned their whole society and their structure and their families after white culture.
Once again, this is something Charlie Kirk preached constantly.
Do you think the cultural expectation in black America is that you stay with the woman that you impregnate?
Within black communities, I can't speak on that.
Okay, the answer is no, it's not. It's not expected.
Okay, and do you think that is...
Hold on, in white Anglo-Saxon Protestant communities, it's a fact. Hold on, in upper middle class white communities...
Upper middle class, say that part louder.
Yeah, upper middle class white Anglo-Saxon Protestant communities, if you impregnate a woman, you are looked down upon and we do not think highly of you if you abandon the woman that you impregnate. That's a cultural difference. Has nothing to do with money, has nothing to do with anything except norms. And the norms that have infected black America are destroying it from within. We need...
Why is it that way in the first place? Why is it that way in the first place? It's like Ben Shapiro saying, "Oh, your house is gonna have to be. Oh, your house. The climate change is making the sea level rise, and you're gonna lose your house on the coast. Just sell your house and move, bro. Sell your house to who? Why is it the norm? Why is it a cultural norm in your heart, Charlie? What had to have happened throughout history to disenfranchise them?"
We need more fathers, not less. We need more dads around and less drag queen story hour. In the 1940s and 1950s, Black America was prosperous and was on pace to be richer and wealthier than white America. More dads were staying with the women that they were with. There was monogamy. What changed? We have been afraid to get to the root of the issue or even speak about it because we don't want to be called a racist.
Kirk thought black people needed to emulate, as he put it, upper middle class Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture because they were supposedly better off when they supposedly did that back when the Grand Wizard was a child. By the way, this was one of Kirk's most common talking points from what I've seen. I had to choose between dozens of clips to include here.
If you don't have a dad around, you're more likely to commit crimes, go to jail. When 2 out of 3 black youth don't have dads around, that's a big, big problem. And it creates a cycle of violence and poverty. That's not racism, that's culture. It's not a cultural value in Black America right now. It's acceptable to have men impregnate women and flee. Do you think in black culture, getting married and staying with one woman for your entire life is elevated and celebrated?
Further, Kirk did believe in structuring society based on racial hierarchy.
Is there any way you propose that both people have the equal opportunity? Because in theoretical, a meritocracy says that person with 100 points higher at the start will eventually be at a higher position.
The only solution would be an IQ test, and the left hates IQ tests. IQ tests are a great way to bring back true meritocracy because IQ tests are study and preparation agnostic. So, are you familiar with an intelligent quotient test?
Yeah. And
but they don't like it because the left says they're racist because, I mean, you can read Charles Murray's bell curve why they don't like it.
The key to getting the meaning behind this comment and this little smirk is knowing the contents of Charles Murray's book, The Bell Curve. This book discusses research into race and IQ and hypothesizes that the US is in large part socially and economically stratified by IQ. High IQ people are elites, and low IQ people are impoverished. Racial groups in the US, the authors say, have significantly different average IQs, with black people being particularly unintelligent. If you accept and promote this view, as Kirk did, and you advocate for utilizing IQ tests as Kirk did, you advocate for a society which is stratified according to a racial hierarchy which you believe is inherent to humanity. This means you want white people to occupy higher levels of power and wealth than black people because you think that is the natural order. Unfortunately for Kirk, he and this book are full of shit. IQ tests are not, as Kirk said, study and preparation agnostic. You can totally practice taking IQ tests and improve your score as you become familiar with the types of questions common to these tests. Unlike Kirk, I didn't drop out of college to join the Neo Clan, and while in college, I aced my senior level course in psychometrics, the study of measurement in psychology, particularly within educational institutions. So I can say fancy things about this, like not only can you improve your score on IQ tests with practice, but research has shown whole experimental groups doing so by an entire standard deviation. People can do this not just because we can get better at problem solving with practice, but also because studying for an IQ test increases your familiarity with the peculiar language of these tests themselves. Today, most researchers think cultural and linguistic factors play the lead role in the variance in IQ scores across groups, and IQ tests measure, more than anything else, knowledge of white middle-class culture. Individuals taking the test who are of the same ethnicity, race, and gender as the individual who created the test questions are more likely to get a better score regardless of their true ability level. Oh, and another fact about this book, Much of the data it cites comes from studies commissioned by an American eugenics organization called the Pioneer Fund, which quite literally partnered with the Nazis and distributed Nazi eugenics propaganda in the 1930s and 40s. The Pioneer Fund was also one of, if not the largest single financial contributor to anti-civil rights activism in the US in the 50s and 60s. So, as a final response to Kirk's ghosts on IQ tests, then, let me say, no, it's not that the left thinks IQ tests are racist. It's that racists, from eugenicists like Henry Goddard in the 1910s, to the Pioneer Fund in the 1950s, to critics of social programs like Charles Murray in the 1990s, to you in the 2020s, have always used a distorted view of IQ test to justify your prejudice. As for Liberty University students like Bryce, I struggle to imagine that hearing segregationist racist talking points is novel given Liberty and its founders' history. In response to the ruling on Brown v. Board of Education, the Supreme Court's decision to desegregate public schools, Liberty's founder Jerry Falwell preached this to his congregation. If Chief Justice Warren and his associates—
Whoa, I didn't know. This actually ties back to... Whoa. Paul Rywick was great friends with Jerry Falwell, and they co-founded the Heritage Foundation and the Moral Majority. And they were associated with the John Birch Society. And the John Birch Society wanted to impeach Earl Warren. What?
Falwell, given Liberty and its founders' history. In response to the ruling on Brown v. Board of Education, the Supreme Court's decision to desegregate public schools, Liberty's founder Jerry Falwell preached this to his congregation. If Chief Justice Warren and his associates had known God's word and had desired to do the Lord's will, I am quite confident that the 1954 decision would never have been made. The facilities should be separate. When God has drawn a line of distinction, we should not attempt to cross that line. He went on to say that integration will destroy our race eventually. Liberty began as Lynchburg Christian Academy, a hauntingly appropriate name for a private school for white students. In 1971, though, the Supreme Court ruled in Green v. Conway.
Wait, and that's where Bryce Crawford came from? That's how all of this... That's literally... Jerry Falwell was like... The whole point of the Heritage Foundation was to use Jerry Falwell and the evangelicals and Paul Rywick to weaponize the abortion issue while hiding it with states' rights with Reagan. Holy shit.
To revoke the tax-exempt status of racially discriminatory private schools, and Liberty was forced to begin admitting non-white students. This angered Falwell so thoroughly that it motivated him to band together with other segregationist Christians and start the massive religious right movement, the Moral Majority. The Moral Majority would pick up momentum in 1979 when one of its founders, Paul Michael Wyrick, had the idea to publicly focus on opposition to abortion to attract supporters, even while they worked against racial integration privately. The religious New Right did not start because of a concern about abortion, former Falwell ally Ed Dobson told Randall Ballmer in 1990. I sat in the non-smoke-filled back room with the Moral Majority, and I frankly do not remember abortion ever being mentioned as a reason why we ought to do something. This scheme gave their anti-abortion propaganda a peculiar shape. It would say things like, in just one generation, as in the generation that did the civil rights movement, our society has moved from a generally high view of life to a very low one. Why has our society changed? The answer is clear. The consensus of our society no longer rests on a Judeo-Christian base. They said humanism, secularized society, and liberal theology were causing the degeneration of good Christian values and the erosion of Western civilization. In this way, they framed rejection of the civil rights movement as respect for all human life and normalized the white supremacist talking point that outside forces were polluting white Christian culture. The moral majority and American religious right more generally exploded in popularity with this approach. Continuously, since its inception, the religious right in this country has used other social issues as vehicles to propagate the rhetoric and ideology underpinning segregation. So you see, the foundations of the culture war in which Bryce now fights are the same as those upon which the Grand Wizard's rhetoric rests. Naturally, similarities between what the Klansmen and conservative Christian pundits say are abundant. Speaking of, what Thomas says next in an attempt to justify segregation and racial hierarchy, it's something that every single one of us has heard from anti-feminist, anti-LGBT Christians before.
So you had families back then, 85% of the black families had a father at home. And they had jobs, they worked hard, and they were good people, you know? But we have not done them a favor. We have not done them a favor by what we've done. And we've destroyed their community, destroyed their homes, destroyed their families. And is that love? That's not love.
Roll the Charlie Kirk clip.
So you love God. So you must love his law. How do you love somebody?
Here we go, folks.
You love them by telling them the truth, not by confirming or affirming their sin. And it says, by the way, Miss Rachel, you might want to crack open that Bible of yours. In a lesser referenced part of the same part of Scripture is in Leviticus 18, is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Just saying.
So does the perfect outline of slavery in Leviticus 25.
So, Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters.
Just as Tom.
So you agree that God's perfect law is God enables the perfect laws of slavery. Cool.
Thomas frames any refusal to subjugate black people as a refusal to show Christian love. Kirk and Christian right-wingers like him frame refusal to subjugate or even kill queer people as a refusal to show Christian love. In this way, they both conceptualize Christian love as a justification and motivation for violence. But still, among all of these similarities in their respective camps, Bryce pushes back on Thomas's brand of racism to a degree and frames this interview as him preaching the gospel to the Klan and calling them racist. His method of combating racism is so deeply flawed, though, that I think it backfires entirely. About 15 minutes into the interview, shortly after Thomas explains why he thinks race is a God-given identity and why that justifies white people prioritizing white interests above all, Bryce, for the first time, firmly disagrees with Thomas.
But the scriptures would tell us that Jesus loved everyone unconditionally, right? That there was no strings attached. The offer was on the same for all people, no matter where you are, the Romans and the Jews in the time period. The sacrifice of Jesus was for both people. His love was on the table for all of them, right?
But Thomas just takes Bryce's theological statement and counters by citing a verse which white supremacists have long used to argue that Jesus only came to save the true house of Israel, who they think were white people.
But he had levels of trust. You know, there's a reason why
he said, I'm not sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Bryce is then locked into a battle of rapid-fire scriptural recitation and interpretation for several minutes.
Yeah, for the time period, right? I think.
So now you put a time period to it. What about the Apostle Paul? Romans 9.
And in this battle, Thomas is easily able to dominate the conversation, going on and on and on, and eventually explains how Jews are, theologically speaking, children of Satan. This becomes a pattern in this interview. Thomas says something absurdly racist. Bryce tries to counter by reciting and interpreting scripture, and Thomas immediately fires back with his own equally abstract and subjective interpretation of scripture. In the process, Bryce lets slide or even affirms racist ideas which are non-theological. Like the wizard starts talking about DNA, and this exchange results.
The percentage of difference between, say, you and a black man from Africa being just like 1 or 2 tiny %, that same amount, just slightly different, is between you and a mouse. We have almost the same body structure, but there's a big difference between you and a mouse. You know?
Yeah, but there's a big difference because the mouse isn't made in the image of God.
What? Bryce, The Grand Wizard of the KKK says to you that you are as biologically distinct from a black man as you are from a rodent, and your response is to say, yes, but the Bible says... Like, no, anything you say after the yes, but is an addendum tacked onto your explicit endorsement of racist pseudoscience.
Yup.
And shifting the conversation to theological ground, as Bryce does, forgoes any opportunity to confront Thomas racism in an arena where it can be shown to be factually wrong. Literary interpretation is a subjective exercise to begin with. One can't interpret a passage of literature and get to its one objectively true meaning. Then, when you bring in metaphysical abstractions like gods, their images, their wills, and their inspired words, literary interpretation becomes an engine capable of producing and justifying an infinite number of contradictory ideas. So Bryce effectively said here, you're right in your scientific racism, Thomas, but now let's arbitrate your racism on grounds where both of us can be equally right and wrong. These two bicker about what the image of God is for a while until this pattern repeats again and again. In the process, Bryce assumes Thomas's non-theological racist claims are true by either responding with a yes, but the Bible says, or by accepting the racist and untrue premise of a question.
If you're proud of being white, you're going to be demonized and hated because there's more anti-white propaganda hatred out there than so-called anti-Semitism.
But do you think that justifies you? Well, hold on, I don't want to say anything that.
There's more anti-white racist propaganda than anything else. Holy shit.
I haven't heard you say yet. Dude, I know you said that you don't believe that black people are made in the image of God. Do you believe that Asian people are made in the image of God?
Bryce could point out that no, anti-white discrimination does not exist in any systemic way, and that people respond negatively to "I'm proud to be white" because that sentiment is historically a product of racist hate groups like the Klan. But no, he's got to say, yeah, but can we talk about theology?
Why are the white nations so far advanced from the nations of Africa or from Asia?
I don't know.
Because they're not the covenant people. God blessed his people. He blessed them.
Bryce could say, if you're talking about why GDP or public health or infrastructure is generally stronger in Western Europe and the US than in Africa, that's an effect of colonialism. Those white nations have been forcibly extracting the wealth of African people for hundreds of years. But long before that, many African nations were much richer, more literate, and more scientifically advanced than anywhere in Europe. But no, he accepts Thomas's stupidly racist premise. This happens several other times, but I'm sure you get it already.
We should make sure we don't surround ourselves with Jews.
Well, I think we should surround ourselves with all
they're founders
people.
of the pornography industry, right?
I mean, yes, they do.
Yeah,
they did
no,
start pornography.
What? Bro, Bryce affirmed that? What? Whoa. I didn't remember that Bryce affirmed that conspiracy with the Klan leader. Holy shit.
At the hour mark, Thomas just directly explains to Bryce why quoting scripture at him will never work.
Well, with all due respect, the whole time that we've chatted about this thing, I continue to bring up a lot of scripture, and I haven't heard too much scripture from you. So it's hard for me as someone, if I were to sit down.
All the scripture you gave up applies to what I said. You said went all through all the nations. I said, well, that means to the nations of Israel. And so you can give me 100 scriptures quoting that, and it all comes out meaning the same thing.
I don't believe it means the same thing at all.
No.
I assure you, Bryce, what Thomas said applies to his audience too. Every scripture you cited, they interpret to support their racism, and you didn't change that. In the process of trying, though, you did a great service to white supremacy. You exposed your audience to the Klan and even affirmed a litany of racist claims right in front of them. Oh, and I'll remind you one more time, you told your viewers the Grand Wizard is a nice guy who you love.
Look, you're the Grand Wizard of the nice party of the KKK, and I love you. I think you're a kind, gentle human being, and I've had a joy talking to you.
Okay, we've effectively established that Bryce effectively aided white supremacy in this conversation, and that his own conservative Christian camp is a force for white supremacy itself. But let's now ask how and why institutions like Turning Point and Liberty University create people like Bryce, people who speak rather explicitly against racism as a concept, but who ultimately help racism flourish. While Turning Point USA trades in bigotries comparable to the KKK's, it maintains that it does so absent any actual prejudice.
I don't say I hate transgender people. If I said that, then I would understand your argument. I don't say I think transgender people should be locked up. I didn't say any of that. I simply made a statement of opinion that based on my analysis of biology, this is not even my analysis, biological analysis of reality, this is correct.
In doing this, it accepts that bigotries like racism exist and are bad things, but defines racism as something other than what Turning Point does. Turning Point propagates segregationist racist talking points and seeks to maintain systems that create the material conditions which keep minoritized groups down. But those things aren't racist, it says. What's left for them to consider racist then? 1. Direct individual acts of racist violence where the perpetrator admits to a racist motivation for the crime. These incidents aren't exactly rare, but they're also not the primary tools of white supremacy. They're merely symptoms of a larger legal and cultural system of white supremacy. Speak only of these symptoms all day long, and white supremacy is not affected. So powerful racists don't really care if you do. In fact, they might appreciate it when people like Bryce do this, as it gives their groups like Turning Point and Liberty a veneer of holding respect for all human life. And 2, direct individual avowals of one's innate and absolute superiority due to one's race. Again, people do say these things sometimes, but rarely does one have to in order to advocate for systems which privilege white Christians over all others. If you need a racist to say, "I'm a racist," in order to believe that they are one, you're not going to clock the vast majority of racists, including those at Turning Point and Liberty. If Bryce has internalized this view of racism, and I think he has, we can understand why he calls the Klansmen kind and gentle. Bryce has never seen him physically attack anyone, so how bad can he be, even if he does lead a group which calls for ethnic cleansing? Likewise, Bryce arbitrates racism on theological grounds alone because to him, claims of innate and absolute superiority are theological claims. It is only in God's design that one can claim this sort of superiority to another. If one claims superiority in culture, intelligence, biology, or any other material realm, that is not a true claim of superiority in Bryce's view, so he lets it slide. Finally, Bryce can view his own camp as anti-racist for the sole fact that they don't explicitly claim to be superior because of the color of their skin, at least in public. When they do claim superiority, it is moral superiority, which they say, and Bryce believes, is a conditional state of being which God bestows upon a person when they follow him. Now, let's recall the fact that the religious right movement with which Bryce aligns came into existence with a strategy to covertly advocate for the interests of segregationists while publicly claiming its core principle was valuing all human life. Is Bryce's interview with the Grand Wizard of the KKK not exactly in line with that strategy? This is the perfect instantiation of the moral majority's deeply racist project. The religious right has been so effective in training up their children in the way they should go that mainstream Christians now produce and perceive content which aids white Christian supremacy as expressly anti-racist. And with that, thank you for watching. I've been Drew of Genetically...
Very so insightful, so aware, so nuanced. I love it. And we're here from where we are. We're gonna go straight to George Wallace from the 60s. Listening to this part.
Today, I have stood where once Jefferson Davis stood and took an oath to my people. It is very appropriate that from this cradle of the Confederacy, this very heart of the great Anglo-Saxon Southland, that today we sound the drum for freedom. And I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
And the whole crowd erupts. We're gonna go from there.
This is Betty Brown's
Watching this.
first day at Pinkston, but rather than coming on the bus, her mother brought her.
Right.
Why?
We didn't know where to catch the bus at.
Are you nervous about Betty's being here?
Yes.
Why?
Well, it's always the first time.
What about you, Betty? Are you nervous?
Uh-huh.
Have you had a chance to talk to any of the kids yet?
No.
What are you nervous
Oh,
about?
wow. No, nothing. I've been in a new school that I don't even know.
Do you think it'll be a long time before Pinkston becomes your school rather than just a school you're attending?
Yes.
More so than if you were at an all-white school?
No.
That doesn't bother you?
No.
Does it bother you, Mrs. Brown?
You mean about it being an all-colored school? No.
Do you think it's bothering many of the parents?
Yes, definitely. Oh, it bothers me that my kid has to change the district, is all. As far as going with a colored, no.
Well, it might be all right. I think the same thing, too.
You think it's going to be okay?
I don't.
Why not?
I don't. Because the first day that I went out there, well, we had a scramble, you know. But it was okay.
You expecting a scramble today?
Well, not so far, but I think I'll make it. A little, I hope.
Does it bother you to be riding a bus?
No.
You think most of the kids are going to go to school today, or are they going to stay home and wait and see what happens?
I think most of them will go today. It'll be all right, just as long as don't be no trouble.
You're going to Skyline now, right?
Righteous.
What do you think about this busing thing?
Well, I think we'll make it the first few days, but the rest of them will be kind of tough.
Why is that?
Well, some of the students are hanging out to see how things going on, and most of them are troublemakers.
The ones who are hanging out?
Yeah.
So when they start coming to school, you think it's going to get bad?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will.
What do you expect?
There's going to be a lot of fighting.
Are you concerned for your daughter, or is she concerned?
Well, I'm concerned for her, and I think she's concerned for her education.
Laverne just talked to your mother, and she said you're a little concerned, are you?
I'm very much concerned.
Why?
Oh, because I want to be sure and very, I want to be very sure about this here, and I want them really know what they're doing. And I think that it will work out if everybody cooperate together, because, I mean, this is not their probably first time. I mean, you got to be together sometime. And I don't think it's no problem if everybody cooperate.
Well, I haven't understood yet exactly what it is you're concerned about.
Oh, well, I'm concerned about my schoolmates and everything, and I'm concerned about how we'll be treated and everything like that. And very much concerned about the education what we're going to receive. And
concerned about your education?
Concerned about my education. Very much.
Okay, thank you.
They just filmed people at the beginning of integration and busing saying, "How do you feel?" And they just wanted to be safe. They just wanted an education. They just wanted to be safe. And so many white people refused to let that happen. It's disgusting. And from
For
there,
those of you in California,
before we go straight to Mr. Rush Limbaugh.
We are defending the right of the people of Virginia and of Alabama to decide some questions for themselves. And if you folks who have had some liberals to tell you about the Constitution, let me suggest that you go to your library and you read the debates in the Constitutional Convention of the state of Virginia, and you read the debates in the Constitutional Convention of the state of New York, and of New Hampshire, and of the original 13 states, and you will find that not a single one of the states wanted to come into the Union until first they were guaranteed that we were going to have a government of limited powers, that all powers not delegated to the government expressly would be lodged and kept with the people of Virginia and of New York and of New Jersey. And in the debates in New Jersey and New York, they said, we've got particular and peculiar problems in New York, and we want the right to determine those ourselves. And so they wouldn't even come into the Union until first they agreed to put the first 10 amendments in the Constitution. And so those in the Constitutional Conventions sound exactly like we in Alabama sound, and sound exactly like many of you who are here today sound, and are completely foreign in their attitude to those today who are interpreting the Constitution of our country.
I was hoping you would say that George Wallace talking about Will Smith, who the fuck? George Wallace talking about states' rights. Yesterday I looked at is there a fucking cat? I hate this. This is really just 1 minute, 40 seconds, really?
On some college campuses, we got folks raising money and blood and clothes and sending it to the communists. And I can tell you, when some of you young people are committed totally between life and death, you're not going to think too kindly against some fella back with a beard raising some money to...
Okay. Going straight to communists. I was hoping to hear him go out of the way to talk about states' rights. Like how... Oh,
No, he's talking about... Well, no, but you said... Yeah, you see, they get in their mind, well, we ate lunch with him. What did he do at lunch? Well, he picked...
It is his standing...
Williams. And now, Mr. Buckley.
Mr. George Wallace, as everybody knows, was the governor of Alabama from 1963 until 1967, at which point he turned his office over to his wife, an act of political chivalry which could have occurred only, perhaps, to a Southerner. That it is her husband who exercises effective power. But Mr. Wallace's standing in Alabama is a matter of diminishing national interest. It is his standing outside Alabama, outside the South, that is the subject of anxious speculation, because the vote for Mr. Wallace may very well determine which of the other two major candidates will become the next president of the United States. Mr. Wallace was born in 1919 to a poor family in Alabama. In 1942, as a public prosecutor. Then in 1958, he ran against John Patterson for governor and lost. He is quoted as having said at the post-mortem that he would never again be out-segged in a political contest. That is to say, that he would not permit his opponent ever again to take a position more pronounced than his own in favor of racial segregation. Now that Mr. Wallace is running for national attention, he denies ever having had any animus against the Negro. He now takes, watch and see, positions on public policy which are generally thought...
Holy shit, he looks like a villain, bro. He's tweaking. He looks like a villain.
...as merely conservative. I should like to begin by asking Mr. Wallace to explain how come it is that a poll of 200 prominent conservatives recently conducted by the weekly journal Human Events reveals what the editors call a, quote, surprising animosity towards Mr. Wallace. Why should that be?
Well, first, I want to comment on your opening statement there, in which you said I was quoted as having said in 1958, after I was defeated, that I was out-segged. That was written in the Time magazine. There's no such expression as seg in the vocabulary of Southerners. I have never heard of the word seg or segged until it was written in the Time magazine. which they are real good at rewriting what is written on the local scene. In fact, recently they wrote, I think, that I made a sucking sound on my teeth when I ate, because they wrote the story that the writer had eaten with me. So when they then sent it to New York, they rewrote it.
He sounds like Trump, bro. So like, I don't want to go through the 40 minutes of this, but I just want to go to Rush Limbaugh and watch this part.
So now we got Mookie and his boys.
Oh God.
It may be time just to forget elections. Skip them. Once you go out and you get the signatures on your ballot initiatives and your propositions, just send it directly to the partisan political operatives on the federal bench throughout the state of California, disguised as judges, and let them decide whether or not your ballot initiative is even constitutional, because your votes don't count. Your votes don't matter. In initiative after initiative after initiative. So now we got Mookie and his boys are going to become community organizers. And of course, that's what Obama did. And who better to advise Mookie than Obama? Seriously, that's what he's going to do. They're going to do social services, education, social justice. So I guess Mookie's thrown his hands in with the left over there. He's going to throw down the weapons and start disrupting the society, much like the civil rights organizations here in this country have tried to do to ours. Now, Supreme Court ruled today that states can no longer be judged by voting discrimination that went on decades ago. This is a decision that marks the end of a major civil rights era reform, the Voting Rights Act, a 5-4 ruling, and it rewrites a key element of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which for 50 years has given the federal government unprecedented say in everything, from how states draw their congressional maps to where they place polling locations. It was all rooted in the belief that southern states were highly discriminatory against blacks, not letting them vote, not letting them register. So the states were totally subservient to the federal government when it came to voting. The federal government, under this act, had the right to tell the states everything, how they were going to draw their districting maps, how they were going to run elections and all that. And the Supreme Court today just threw that out, saying it's no longer applicable. And in fact, I think if anybody should be punished for voting rights violations today, it should be the Democrat Party. The Democrats.
Whoa. Whoa. Whoa, Rush. You really said this?
Created the Ku Klux Klan to...
Rush Limbaugh used reverse racism and revisionist history to blame the black Democrats for the white Southerner Ku Klux Klansmen who terrorized them.
Keep blacks from voting Republican. When that didn't work, they created and enforced the punished for voting rights violations today. Should be the Democrat Party. The Democrats created the Ku Klux Klan to keep blacks from voting Republican.
What?
When that didn't work, they created and enforced the Jim Crow laws to make it hard for them to vote Republican.
What? They did it so they didn't vote Republican. What? What are you? Rush, your revisionist history is laughable.
It's the Democrat Party and agents of influence like the new Black Panthers, which now terrorize voters in black districts. How about the fact that Romney in 59 Philadelphia voting districts didn't get one vote? Romney did not get one vote. Zero, folks. 0 votes in 59 districts. Now, if there are voting violations taking place today, it's the Democrat Party. Anyway, this thing has been thrown.
That was your he just went on a racist tirade and then said, anyway, I don't like Democrat. Wow.
Voting violations taking place today. It's the Democrat Party. Anyway, this thing has been thrown out now, and the left is in a tizzy. It's good news for the states who redistricted when the GOP took over and are being sued for doing so now. There's a pull quote from the Washington Times story. Beneath the legal ruling is a broader social statement, with the justices saying that a state cannot be perpetually held responsible for past discrimination if there's no evidence that it still exists. I mean, this cuts right to the core of affirmative.
No evidence. What did you just say, Rush?
Held responsible for past discrimination if there's no evidence that it still exists.
What are you talking about? You're just lying and gaslighting your audience.
I mean, this cuts right to the core of affirmative action. When affirmative action was established, it was to make amends for past transgressions. So what it basically was, we were setting up new discrimination to deal with old discrimination. And we were calling that a remedy. But then people like me said, okay, well, when does this new discrimination end? And the civil rights people said, never. Affirmative action is a law of the land, and it's part of the fabric, and it's never going to end. Well, wait a minute. You're now punishing people who didn't do anything.
I don't even want to listen to the rest of this because it's just going to make me sick to hear him defend that.
In the white race, we believe that at this point in time that white Americans are being treated as second-class citizens, that the federal laws, the civil rights laws, have created a dual system of justice in this country, a set of federal laws that protects the interest of minorities and local and state laws.
But Grand and Imperial.
Yep. Let me think.
Because of Woodstock. In the early 60s, efforts were shaped. My own philanthropic efforts were shaped in the early 60s, and this may surprise you. It wasn't because of Woodstock or any of those things, but by my passion to understand the principles underlying peace and prosperity. And because of that passion, I read everything I could on the subject from every discipline and perspective. And along the way, I encountered the writings of people like von Mises, Hayek, Friedman, and so on. And they convinced me that societal well-being was only possible in a system of economic freedom. And as you know, I've been a strong proponent of that view ever since.
Probably heard by now if you have a Walker from a leftist journalist, an obscure, wacko, extreme leftist publication. A journalist pretended to be David Koch.
That man talking about how he's happy he could make a world that lives off of the good economy was one of the sons of the man in the John Birch Society. And that was him saying what he wanted to say. And now here's Rush Limbaugh, poster boy of the Koch brothers media machine, defending the Koch brothers.
I know David Koch. Little disclosure here, I know David Koch. I know his brother Charles Koch. The so-called evil Koch brothers are nothing of the sort. They are, as is typical, the exact opposite of the way the Democrats and the media portray them. They're just like any other people. They have organizations that are designed to influence and shape the country in ways they believe in. They happen to be constitutionalists. They happen to be conservatives. They happen to have a strict moral code, and they're very concerned about what's happening in the country, and they have organizations that defend and protect their beliefs as they relate to the founding of the country, pure and simple. They come from the Koch petrochemical and oil family from Wichita, Kansas. Charles Koch still lives there. David Koch lives in New York. David Koch is the man who bought Jacqueline Onassis's apartment on Fifth Avenue after she died, and it was put up for sale. He has since sold it and moved to another place in town. But I've met them at charitable events. I've met them at prostate cancer charitable events. I've met them at a number of charitable events. And they are, as is typical of people who are not in line with the American left, they are maligned in ways that in no way close approach who these two men are and their families.
Just good sucky. Just good guac. I am 50% about to go smoke another bowl, but I'm just making sure. Is there anything? Okay, yeah, here we go. Now string it back to Trump, because Trump loved Rush Limbaugh.
Do you feel any cultured values in
scare people from protesting? It's more than just a dog whistle. Donald Trump and Bill Barr are openly calling for authoritarianism.
Hold on, let me find the original clip, actually.
Minneapolis. Thank God we still have Minneapolis. To right here with all of you great people. This state was pioneered by men and women who braved the wilderness and the winters to build a better life for themselves and for their families. They were tough and they were strong. You have good genes, you know that, right? You have good genes. A lot of it's about the genes, isn't it? Don't you believe? The racehorse theory you think was so different? You have good genes in Minnesota. They didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of luxury. But they had grit, they had faith, and they had each other. That's what you have now. You have each
They have good genes. They have good genes.
He's
very
enthusiastic. And nobody's been able to do that but him. And he's a great guy. And we have him.
Shout out to Elon.
And Vivek and some great people working on a thing called costs.
Shout out to Vivek.
Russia can't do it or come close. It will be 10 years before they can do it. And the U.S. can't do it except for him. And it's pretty amazing. But he did that. And then he journeyed to Pennsylvania where he spent
Trump sounds like a fucking child.
like a month and a half campaigning for me in Pennsylvania. And he's a popular guy. And he was very effective. And he knows those computers better than anybody, all those computers, those vote-counting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide, so it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon. And his son's name, who's cute as a button, his son's name is X. He's the only guy who could get away with the name X. But his son is a great guy. One thing we know, his son is smart. If you believe in the racehorse theory, he's got a nice, smart son.
Holy shit, there's Donald Trump masking off, saying the white supremacist talking points that Jerry Falwell, Paul Weyrich, the Koch brothers, Donald Trump's dad, Reagan, Nixon, they all believe it, and now Trump is masking off. And at the fucking inauguration where he mentions the racehorse theory, Elon Crust does the Sieg Heil, starts talking a bunch of white nationalist shit on Twitter, and they're trying to convince you that the Unite the Right rally was not the conversion point from the Democrat Confederacy to be joined into the right-wing clan with the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists and the Christians. That was the conversion point. And Trump is now masking off and saying the most unhinged racist shit you've ever fucking heard. And sorry, not Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley is hating Somali people, and I'm pretty sure Bryce Crawford is connected to the religious institution of TPUSA. So Bryce is down here somewhere. I gotta put his name here. And Joe Ricketts is an alumni, I think, Americans for Prosperity? Which one? Either American Enterprise Institute or Americans for Prosperity or Young Americans Federation Foundation, whatever the fuck. It's one of those. The guy that runs Straight Arrow News, that donates and gives money to help Tyler make his racist content, is a guy that's connected to a fucking think tank and has a shit ton of fucking money and his own news system that bankrolls and helps out Tyler for his videos and does sponsorships. And Tyler goes around and talks to the same kind of people that Bryce talks to with the Klan. Tyler made a whole video where he went into a Confederate fucking, like, a racist antique shop, a Confederate War Confederacy building with neo-Nazi merchandise. And he bought rocks so he could have a gift to give to the most racist man in the world. Because that was the point of the video, was saying, look, we're going to go interview the most racist person in the world. So we're going to go get him some Confederate memorabilia, as in rocks, because it was a thing to say that rocks are more important than black people. And he's connected to a fucking think tank. The same fucking think tanks that are bankrolled by the same people that run TPUSA and the Hoover Institution and all the fucking think tanks. And it's the Coors, the Scafes, the Bradleys, the Wilkes, the DeVoe, the Richardson. I gotta put Bryce Crawford here somewhere, because he's definitely one of the... Bryce Crawford is a place for down here as a conversion point for the... using the Democrats are the worst people ever, and the Democrats are evil, and our Christian white nationalism wasn't what the Democrat Confederacy was 100 years ago because we've used revisionist history to trick you. It's like, yeah, Trump actively saying the racehorse theory, and then Trump does this.
Yourself?
Well, the people in Karlstad are very reliable, strong people. And I feel that about myself. Yeah, I'm strong and I'm very reliable. I'm on time. I get things done. And that's basically a whole German culture, not just Karlstad. I mean, that's a German culture. And, you know, I'm proud to have that German blood. There's no question about it. Great stuff.
Interesting.
Kamala Harris is leading a hate campaign now. She's got a new thing going. You know, I think now they're calling me a dictator. So they started off where I was a dictator. None of it worked. Then they went to, he's an evil genius. That didn't work. Then they went, he's a dumb son of a bitch. That didn't work. That didn't last long. That didn't last too long. Then they went back to the dictator stuff. They don't know what they're doing. Those poor people, those poor lost souls. They're like lost souls. They're radical left lunatic Democrats, and they all suffer from Trump derangement syndrome at a level. And she's joining. I saw Hillary today. We're having a big thing on Sunday at Madison Square Garden. And I guess in the 1930s or something, some guy who was inclined toward the Nazis had something, and she said, it's just like the 1930s. No, it's not. No. This is called Make America Great Again. That's all it's called. This is not right. It's crazy what's going on. They're ruining our country, and it's true. They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing. They're destroying our country. They don't like it when I said that, and I never read Mein Kampf. They said, oh, Hitler said that in a much different way. No, they're coming from all over the world, people all over the world. We have no idea. They could be healthy. They could be very unhealthy. They could bring in disease that's going to catch on in our country, but they do bring in crime.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
Hail Trump as they do not see
What does today
symbol.
represent to you? The camera's right here. What does today represent to you? How you doing? This represents a turning point for the people of this country. We are determined to take our country back. We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump. That's what we believed in. That's why we voted for Donald Trump, because he said he's going to take our country back, and that's what we got to do.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail!
It's crazy what's going on.
Here it is. Hello. Is my browser gonna shit itself? That's fine.
Senator Vance, in 2016, you called your running mate Donald Trump unfit for the nation's highest office, and you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and you've said you regret those comments and explained you then voted for Donald. Senator Vance, in highest office, and you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and you've said you regret those comments and explained you then voted for Donald Trump in 2020. But the Washington Post reported new messages last week in which you also disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president, writing to someone in 2020, quote, "Trump thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism." You're now his running mate, and you've shifted many of your policy stances to align with his. If you become vice president, why should Americans trust that you will give Donald Trump the advice he needs to hear and not just the advice he wants to hear? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people, rising with...
Delivered bomb strikes? Certainly.
I've never done this before. Can I have a pledge, a swearing? Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I, no matter how I feel, no matter what the conditions, if there's hurricanes or whatever, will vote on or before the 12th for Donald J. Trump for president. Thank you. Now I know. Don't forget, you all raised your hand. You swore. Bad things happen if you don't live up to what you just did. No, I really appreciate it. I mean, we're having an amazing period.
That was Saturday at a rally in Florida. Trump was asking...
The people, my people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. No, they say, Trump, we love you too, man. Trump's voters are by far, you know, I'm at 68, 69%. I'm at 90% total. Like, will you stay? Absolutely. I think it's 68 or 69%. Will you most likely stay? That gets into the 90s. Other guys are like a 10. Well, did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like... I mean, Germany honestly is not paying their fair share. I have great respect for Angela and I have great respect for the country. My father is German, right? Was German. And born in a very wonderful place in Germany, and so I have a great feeling for Germany, but they're not paying what they should be paying. They're paying close to 1%, and they're supposed to be paying 2%. And the United States, over the years, got to a point where it's paying 4.3%, which is very unfair. And the U.S. GDP, especially under me, because the GDP has gone up so much, because it's 4.3 of a much larger GDP. So we're paying for a big proportion of NATO, which basically is protecting Europe. So we're protecting Europe. At the same time, they've taken advantage of us on trade. So we have the best of all worlds. We're protecting countries that have taken advantage of the United States on trade. But it's all changing. It'll take a little while, but it's all changing.
Kirk describes Clarence Thomas are far better black role models to celebrate than Martin Luther King.
This guy is not worthy of a national holiday. There's a mythology around MLK that does not warrant the reverence that he gets treated with in America.
We have a federal holiday to a guy that talked about race all the time. Kirk describes King as, quote, a bad guy. It's true. We celebrate the Civil Rights Act more than the American founding. The country made a mistake when it passed the Civil Rights Act. Also true. The Democrats are not lifting a finger to remember the well over 100 people that have died in Texas Hill Country. The death toll likely would not have been as high if it wasn't for DEI.
Ketanji Brown Jackson is what your country looks like on critical race theory.
You're gonna remove my appendix and you're a black lesbian?
Ketanji Brown Jackson is an embodiment of the tyranny that we currently live under. She's an ideological, unintelligent, yet confident fanatic.
Why does Kirk believe passing the Civil Rights Act was a mistake? Now again, apparently they don't listen to the show because we do that at least once a week, right?
So she wants to be the first ever black woman on the Supreme Court, yet she won't even admit that she's a woman.
The transgender movement is an introductory phase.
These doctors need to be put in prison
To get you to strip yourself of your humanity,
a Nuremberg-style trial.
to mesh with machines. Interestingly, I think there is an argument to bring back the MRS degree.
Reject feminism.
Young women need to get married at a younger age and start having kids.
I'm studying sociology. No, you're not. We know why you're here.
Submit to your husband, Taylor. You're not in charge.
You will find a husband if you have the intent to find a husband.
You got to change your name. If not, you don't really mean it.
Democrat women want to die alone without children.
A lot of them are on birth control too, and birth control really screws up female brains, by the way.
It's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny. And we should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Every single one of you need to make sure that your loved ones are not on birth control.
So materially insane to think that 1 in 5 American women will be raped in their life.
It is, I agree.
No, meaning that they're lying about being raped. That in 5 American women will be raped in their life.
It is, I agree.
No, meaning that they're lying about being raped.
You're comparing abortion to the Holocaust.
Absolutely I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse. Because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies.
What the fuck is it? What?
It's worse because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies.
That's literally every conspiracy, all lumped into one shit post. Oh my fuck.
By the way, this is my other problem with death penalty. It takes too long, too many appeals. It should be public, it should be quick, it should be televised. Well, at what age should you start to see public execution?
16. I think you could do it earlier. I think you maybe at age 12.
I want to watch that execution. That'll make my day better. A lot. I mean, Joe Biden is a bumbling, dementia-filled, Alzheimer's, corrupt tyrant who should honestly be put in prison and or given the death penalty for his crimes against America.
Democrat Party.
Oh. My browser shit itself. Let's go.
Between GOP rhetoric and open border neoliberal it should you start age-filled Alzheimer's corrupt against America.
The Democrat Party believes everything that God hates.
We're dealing with maggots, vermin, and swine here. These are not good people. They're not even a little bit good. In fact, I know people that went to Haiti passively as agnostic atheists, and they came back searching for Jesus because they saw legit demonic activity. Kamala Harris wants to see the elimination of the United States of America.
Democrat Party supports everything that God hates.
There's not much you can do, folks. You have a government that hates you. You have a traitor as president. Buy weapons. I keep on saying that.
As top Republicans reject any link between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. If some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. Native-born Americans, you better buy weapons, everybody. Have a lot of guns at your disposal. I would never leave your home without a weapon. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
We actually need looser gun laws because I think that free laws.
Oh, yeah. They said we have more guns at the Turning Point HQ than you can imagine. Yeah, if anyone ever tries to come, oh, no. Imagine the world without Joy Reid. Imagine the world without Sheila Jackson Lee or Michelle Obama or Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I am channeling the emotions of millions of conservatives who are angry. They knew Charlie. They loved Charlie. They view Charlie as a mainstream conservative Republican.
There was a conference. What was it? Turning Point USA. How many kids were there? And there 3,000 student activists here it was actually over at West Palm Beach. And this is a group that has been put together and operates under the auspices of Charlie Kirk, right? Who is you're going to be hearing that name if you haven't. Charlie Kirk. Let me just tell you. I don't want to jinx him, but I'm just going to tell you. They brought Charlie Kirk to the golf course to meet me about a month ago. He was in town to set up this Turning Point thing, and they brought him to the golf course to meet me. It was we were getting ready for a 8:45 a.m. start, and they brought him out while I was getting ready to go to the range to loosen up. And I spoke with him for about a half hour, and he told me how he grew up in a home where my program was on all the time. He was just effusively complimentary to me, which I, of course, understood and told him he's very wise. His family's very wise. He chuckled. He laughed. This is the kind of guy that you can see really becoming big in politics as he gets older. He just has the carriage, the personality, the charisma. You may think this sounds weird, but I remember when Bill Clinton became president, there were all of these stories about Bill Clinton at Oxford and Bill Clinton at Yale and Bill Clinton here and all these people who went to school with him. There was story after story after story where people were saying that they just knew Bill Clinton was going to be president someday. In college, he just had that kind of ambition, and he impressed people. And I'm telling you that people are saying the same things about Charlie Kirk.
That's Fox News's number.
Folks, there's
no unskilled mix. Of inadequacy that I had.
Russia's by far the most articulate, defining voice of conservatism in America today, the most articulate voice of Reagan conservatism in the country. Russia's a powerful voice. I would argue that Rush is the leader of the conservative movement in the country. I know him. I'm friends with him. He's a gracious, gracious man. Rush is the leader in radio.
It was literally through Rush Limbaugh and Reagan to finish the Southern strategy. What the fuck? I'll have to reset it. It was literally Rush Limbaugh through Reagan to enable Charlie Kirk to continue the process of revising history to get to Trump. And it's all crumbling down. It's beautiful to watch.